Today to announce that the Justice Department has secured felony guilty pleas from the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance.
Actually, it's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Largest virtual.
Binance.
Binance. And let me be clear. It's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Council has discussed crypto regulations and legislations at length, and we have come to the conclusion that instead of regulating, we are going to ape a fat bag each into laptop and pump it to over $1,300,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 market cap. Let's fucking go, crackheads.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Morning Coffee. I got my coffee locked and loaded, ready to go, because we have to talk about the retracement that is going on. Bitcoin hit 123,000 US dollars, but then it retraced to $117,000, where we are sticking around right now. And you will read in social media about the end of the bull market, where this is the top and so on. And we expected this retracement in our last stream. We have predicted it. Now it is here, and I will show you what's likely going to happen next. So big question, what is happening next? Also, there are some wild predictions out here, from Pompliano to Grasso and so on. We are going to look a little bit at that, as well as some asset manager that buys Bitcoin but doesn't offer it to the customers and so on. So make sure to stay all the way through as we're discussing this. Did I say that I get my coffee locked and loaded, ready to go? I don't think so, but I do. So here it is. Very good, very good. We do have our massive breakout here, and of course such an impulsive move gets a corrective move after a while, right? And this corrective move might take a couple of days, right? This candle here, it might get eaten up straight away, who knows? Maybe there is another day added and we go down to 114,000 or something like that, and I will show you in a second why. But these things are normal, not a single time in history it just went up and then up and then up, and right? So impulsive move, corrective move, impulsive move, correct. It's expected, right? Dips are part of the reason. No reason to be fearful or anxious or something like that about this, right? We just hit a new all-time high just yesterday, 123,200, and now it's time for some air, right? So let's check out the reason why, and that would be in the, there it is, right? So yesterday we discussed this. We do have a CME gap open, and that CME gap goes from 115,000 to 114,460, and we are magnetizing in that way. The potential was that we just go pumping and we leave gaps open along the way. Not every gap gets filled in the latest, like in the last pump and rise to the upside, where Bitcoin just pumps every day, including the weekends. We did have that also in other bull runs, and I think we do only. Needs to be on the daily. I hope I can load that much of a chart, but so everything but these two CME gaps are filled. Here we have one at 92,000, and sometimes it takes a while until those get filled, right? So for example, if you look at the last bull run, we have, once this massive move comes, we had this CME gap down here, and that went on until here, right? I didn't draw this out, so let's get this here. So here we have one, and then here a big one that opened, and it got only filled once once the bear market was already in full mode, right? So on this way up, we did have these, and then we filled all of these on the way back down. And you see it here. So this would be then our 92,000, right? And then some more, right? So I think we are still good for the bull run here, but also keep in mind that we are coming back to prices like this if you're taking any trades or anything like that more short term. It is possible, based on the theory of CME gaps, that we are coming back to those levels, 92 and below, potentially 70 to 75,000 as the next bear market bottom, but let's see. Back to this, on a monthly level, for example, if you were to look at this, give me a second to stretch this out a little bit. Okay, on a monthly basis, you just see a green candle with a wick to the upside and only continuation. So it really depends on the time frame where you're looking at, right? Again, a quick check on the indicators as always. We're looking to the upside. If this trajectory goes like this, more or less, we're ending somewhere September, October for the TSI, which would be our time wise and top prediction. We are currently at 72.8 RSI, so there's still massive room to go. And we do have our bull cross here on the stochastic RSI rising. Also here momentum stays positive, so nothing to worry about in my opinion, rather than how far it can go. And if you want to stack sats, then you have to worry about how high it goes and then how deep it will come back for us to go and stack some more Bitcoin. Let's see what's going on internationally real quick, just a spotlight. Okay, Nvidia is to sell to China again soon. China's second quarter GDP tops expectation at 4.2%. They, by the way, have like massive money printer going on. European market set to open positive despite a tariff, because I think the European Union is getting ready for a trade deal. Inside Europe's $1 billion wooden city, okay, it doesn't matter. So anyways, right, Bitcoin was there yesterday on the spot. Today it's not anymore. It's already not interesting anymore after the retracement, but then we will have the next pump to the upside, right? But so far so good. Now, who is behind the selling, right? We had covered before that there is this Satoshi era legacy whale, and that has 80,000 Bitcoin and didn't move any until now, right? A couple of weeks ago, the addresses got updated, and first we thought, okay, maybe just an address update, but now this whale did sell 16,843 Bitcoin and cashed out $2 billion after buying it for $16,000 14 years ago. I mean, you have to imagine the balls that someone has 14 years ago to buy at less than $1 some Bitcoin. This is insane, right? And but this is exactly why we had these long periods of sideways, because we're like Bitcoins and Satoshis and whatever, they are changing hands now from very early long holders that are taking lifestyle. I mean, this is way more than lifestyle chips. I don't know what this guy is buying. Maybe he wants to inject it into his company or whatever, because this guy had to be a little bit more wealthy already to put $16,000 or more. I mean, he has 80,000 Bitcoin at the time into Bitcoin. at that time, 14 years ago, $16,000 was also more than now. But now he is selling. So this is changing hands. And you can say, oh, man, this is Satoshi era guy, he's selling. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. The massive amounts of Bitcoin are now hitting the market or coming slowly into the market in this environment. They are changing hands from old hands to new hands, and new hands becoming older hands, but with less Bitcoin at their hands, right? So reported sold to Coinbase and Binance. I see you, chat. I see you. By the way, guys, if you enjoy these constant updates here on the channel, smash up the like button. Helps the channel tremendously to grow. I really would appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything. So thanks for smashing the like button. Let's see here. Anita Cho says, hope it will blast. By the way, we do have our rare hodlers here also, Domvu and Trucking Hank. Thank you very much for the support. Appreciate it. And Pro Legendary also. Good morning to you. Anita says, hope it will blast to the moon. I will buy more. Yeah, let's see. But I mean, there's so much this guy can sell. And if you think about 16,800 Bitcoin and we just dropped 6,000 points in a retrade, like $6,000. He can do that 3 times more, and then he's out of any Bitcoin, right? And then he's a multi-billionaire sitting on then what is that? Like he can do that a couple of times more if he wants to. But let's see, right? But we had the same with Germany when Germany sold at way lower prices. 50,000 Bitcoin. It took us a couple of weeks to recover, and then now, see, no one remembers anymore, right? No one remembers anymore. So the whale is selling. I have 230 billion meme coin. Congratulations. I don't know what's it worth today. Taking some lever off from Bitcoin on MSTR now, long around 1.4x in both from 2x. Congratulations also. Hopefully your profits are nice. It was OTC sale. Yeah, and then it's even better, right? But still, people see the sell and they FUD, right? They FUD with it and you get this. So maybe it's not a market sale, but it still has effects because you can see it on chain, right? So yeah. GM fam, Mewtwo, what is going on? Good to see you. Good. So let's check this out. So here someone says, and this is funny, right? Someone says 6.15 BTC was the tough but realistic stacking goal once. Then 1 BTC became the tough but realistic stacking goal. We have now crossed the Rubicon again, and 0.21 BTC is now the tough but realistic stacking goal. And I kind of agree, because 0.21 BTC as a stacking goal, that's more than 20,000 US. It's more like 25,000 US dollars already. So I'd say for many people even 0.1 Bitcoin is now the tough but realistic stacking goal. And many people will try to accomplish this right now, as Bitcoin is at 120,000 and during Bitcoin rising to 130K and so on. Instead of piling cash and then trying to just buy it in a swoop when there is fear in the market, in the bear market, and then there will be temporarily and throughout another bear market 50, 60, maybe 70% down on this thing. Someone says, interesting trend. Lately I've been seeing more and more content saying get to 0.1 and in some cases even 0.01. I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? And I would still argue that having 0.01 Bitcoin is still better than none, right? Because 0.01 of 10 million per Bitcoin is still better, right? Anyways, I agree with that. I'd say everyone should have even if it's a super small DCA plan or something like that for Bitcoin, just to get more Satoshis into the wallet. But that is just my opinion and not financial advice. Let's see. So Bitcoin is getting a lot of attraction, and it's the greatest show on Wall Street. So listen to this.
Welcome to the greatest show on Wall Street. I think that Wall Street's full undivided attention now is on Bitcoin. And really, there's three things that drove this move. The first is that there's been record inflows into the ETFs. So last Thursday, 1.2 billion, second highest day. Those ETFs now collectively have over 140 billion. BlackRock's fund is now almost $90 billion in about a year. They went from not having a Bitcoin ETF to now they have a top 20 largest ETF in the world. So there's a lot of inflows there. Second thing is the options expired at the end of Q2. And so all that downward pressure on Bitcoin obviously goes away. That helps kind of like a beach ball getting put underneath the water, right? Obviously it can pop back up. And then the third thing is that there was a lot of short sellers. And you started to see that build up. And as they got blown out, as Bitcoin ran, you get into this price discovery phase. And if you go back to November, we went from 70,000 to 90,000 in about 2 to 3 weeks. And 70,000 was a new all-time high. What we're watching now is we broke through that $110,000 range. That was the previous all-time high. I don't know if it goes to 140, but it sure is going to make a big move here because you are in a true price discovery phase.
And how much of this do you think at this point then gets driven by ETFs, or do you think it's really more going to be individuals buying the underlying asset?
Well, the reason why I call it the greatest show on Wall Street is everyone wants Bitcoin. Like, this is no longer a contrarian trade. This is a consensus trade now. And so you have the ETFs, you have the Bitcoin treasury companies, you have retail, you have sovereign wealth fund. Everybody wants Bitcoin.
Should we be scared of that? Meaning, we were talking about just economists and analysts were like, when the economists have a consensus view, usually should go the other direction.
Yeah, well, the economists still don't like Bitcoin, so I think we're okay. But if you take a look at, the S&P, everyone wants the S&P, right? And so what you want is persistent kind of price-insensitive buyers, and that's finally what Bitcoin has. And it's not just coming from retail investors; it's also coming from these institutions, and I think that'll continue to drive.
Does it matter what Congress does anymore?
I think there are, and this is important, right? And NFT Hero, you're saying it, right? He thinks that inflows, ETF inflows, are responsible for the pump. It depends because you are right. Most of this is OTC. So BlackRock buys the Bitcoin OTC to have the equivalent for the ETFs that are being bought in BlackRock or Vanguard, Vanguard doesn't have them, but any other asset manager, right? And I would say that is somewhat true, but at some point, if you can get them cheaper on the exchange, they get them on the exchange. If you can get them OTC, you get them OTC, like from this whale, right? But still, it has a market effect, because if someone cannot get a good OTC deal, they go to the market, right? And that might be happening. And then there are also people that just see, okay, there are massive ETF inflows, so it's time to buy, right? They see this as a bullish sign, so they themselves buy. So as a secondary effect, that happens. By the way, thank you very much to Rickard Brom. What is the Rickard Brommer? For the 100, what is that, Swedish crowns donation. Thank you very much. Can you make a video on Stark? I've never made a video on Stark, but why not? I mean, I will think about it. I will look into it, and then I will check if I can get you a video on Stark. That must be Starknet, right? So token is known. Let's see. I will research into that. I will put it on my list, on my to-dos. So yeah, thank you very much for the donation, and yeah, let me get to it. So yeah, and then also he says it's not the only thing, right? Because he says in general you have now attracted to Bitcoin a lot of price insensitive investors, where I would say they are not price insensitive, right? They are looking at what they have in funds, and the play before was like, okay, what's Warren Buffett doing, and being in S&P 500 and Nasdaq and I don't know what, and getting your 8 to 20% returns. But overall, Bitcoin has consistently outperformed most of the assets in the world, if not every asset in the world. So now these price insensitive players are looking at the CAGR that is way higher. And I think that, yeah, these are the reasons, and it's the greatest show on Wall Street. And that's also why Bitcoin dominance is rising all the time, because everyone is at the moment only looking at Bitcoin dominance. But we are looking at something else, or at Bitcoin, and therefore Bitcoin dominance is up, right? We are looking at something else, and this goes back to the initial part of the stream. Why do we have a dip now? Okay, so this one here is of a couple of hours ago when we were high, 122,500 and so on, close to all-time high. Look how perfectly this pump mimics the global M2 pump in this chart, right? It's insane, right? Given that you are highly correlated but not 100% correlated, I would say this part of the pump is over, and we are now seeing this part of the dip, okay? So this might be the beginning of the dip. We might be dipping for 3-4 days, and then we might, or maybe even the entire week, right? We might be dipping the entire week. We might not be at any new all-time highs the entire week. We might be going sideways down, close the CME gap, and then, if this behaves like every time before, then we have another pump all the way to 140,000 in front of us just the next week, right? And don't take my word like on the exact hour and week and day, right? But if the M2 and look how M2 behaves here, right? I mean, it's just going up again and again, right? So we don't see the end of this pump. This is a 3-week lead, and if a 3-month lead, and if this is a 3-month lead, that also means that we basically have from here at least 3 months more bull market in front of us, which would put us in the mid of October right now for definitely up. Yeah, and this is nuts. This is nuts. It's completely nuts. If you look at this trajectory, it's completely nuts, right? So let's see. But it's trailing M2 really nicely right now, and the offset here between one and the other. What is that? I mean, that must be at least a week, maybe a little bit more. So we could really expect here days of dip without being worried, right? And it's also good, right? Short-term indicators to cool off, and then boom, next pump, and then we get another dip from 140 back to 130,000, and then just another pump to 150,000, right? If we were to follow it. And this is important to note. It works until it doesn't, right? But it works since a long time really, really nicely. It works until it doesn't, because if everyone sees it works, everyone will look at it, and then everyone will try to front run whenever something that looks toppy in here, and then it will depeg, it will decorrelate. At that moment where everyone uses one model, it doesn't work anymore because people take action before the model try to anticipate the model, right? But so far so good. We in our disturbed Twitter bubble are using that because of Raw Pal and so on, who's using that. It will be over 1 point, right? But now is not the time. It works perfectly. It still trails. Global M2 will lead to certain pumps, but the correlation might be getting less effective over time. But we will see. Maybe this is not now. Maybe it's not even in 1 or 2 years. Maybe too little people are looking at this. But this is the most important chart of this cycle, I would say, right? The M2. It has perfectly predicted everything that we're seeing. And we're using it on this channel since months. It's MicroStrategy with around 7% interest and limited downside with option. Ooh, nice. Okay. Wait a second. So you want me to make a video on strategy? Is that it? I thought that STRK is Stark token or something like that. wait a second. Let me quickly look into the coins here. Stark was in the top 100, right? Isn't that the same ticker? Yeah, STRK is Starknet. So please clarify if STRK is something with strategy and limited downside, or if you want me to make a video on Starknet. Anyways, while you're writing this, we're going to look at Bloomberg. Okay, so another one here. Let's listen to this. This is about ETFs and so on, and Vanguard.
Products. Next, Vanguard's unintended exposure to Bitcoin. The firm has long held firm that Bitcoin has no inherent economic value, is an immature asset class, and is not appropriate for long-term investors. Yet, Vanguard is now the single biggest shareholder of Strategy, as you can see here. Michael Saylor's software firm that's become a proxy for Bitcoin. Vanguard owns 20 million shares, and the reason? Index investing. Vanguard mutual funds and ETFs that passively track indexes have no choice but to end up holding shares of Strategy, even though the firm dislikes Bitcoin. Irony, clearly.
This is so insane, right? So Vanguard is like the only asset manager that dislikes Bitcoin. Okay, it's not a coin. Gotcha. Then I will look into that. Whatever you are, I will look into that. Yeah. But so Vanguard is Strategy's largest holder. They are passively buying Strategy shares because of their indexing strategy. So they are buying S&P 500, other indexes, right? Now they have 20 million shares. So they are basically putting capital, unwanted, but they still do, into Strategy. Strategy is leveraging that to buy more Bitcoin. So Vanguard tells their customers to not buy Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin is an immature asset class and that Bitcoin is not for long-term investment, yada, yada, yada. They are telling that to their customers, but they still have to basically proxy own Bitcoin through Strategy because there is no other choice, right? So that's funny. If I don't know, I don't care, to be honest. Like every company does their own decisions and so on, but it's super funny to see this development because you get this. And this is now with the S&P 500, right? If everyone whatever they buy, if you buy an MSCI World, if you buy whatever other Vanguard, multi-world fund, US only, the likelihood that there is some strategy in it and therefore some Bitcoin exposure without knowing it is extremely high, which is super funny to think about. Like, think about the implications, what that means if companies come into the S&P 500 and other indexes of this world because of Bitcoin. They see, okay, putting Bitcoin on balance sheet pumps me up, I come in there. Then they get passive allocation by ETF investors. And with that, they buy more of the Bitcoin because that's a strategy. This is like proxy race, and most people in the world that don't believe in Bitcoin start basically benefiting from Bitcoin upside without knowing it and putting money into Bitcoin proxy without knowing it. Crazy. It's crazy where this has evolved to. This is insane. But let's talk about Moonboy targets here. We do have, and we will see if these are really Moonboy targets, but we have here, what was his name? Steve Grasso coming out saying that Bitcoin is easily going to 250 to 300K, which would put my strategy really into a problem, because if we go to 350K and then we get a 60% drawdown, we're still higher than we are right now in the bear market bottom, right? But I believe in my own analysis, but still, let's listen. I want to give you the full picture, so here we go.
I am a firm believer that it's going much, much higher from here. Think about corporate adoption. Corporate adoption is probably only about 2%. Central banks, only about 3%. those are both going higher, much higher. Retail investors going much higher. So look at it through, I'll leave off with this. Look at it through the market cap of Bitcoin. That's around 2 trillion, let's say. Look at the market cap of gold. That's around 20 trillion. Maybe it doesn't have to be gold, but if it closes the gap to 50%, you're looking at $500,000 per Bitcoin. And I do think that in iShot, you're looking at 250, 350,000 pretty easily for crypto. There's a couple of things, a couple of hurdles, but I think those days of it losing 80% of its value and then rallying up are long gone. There's too many people that are looking for the asset.
And I kindly disagree with that, because it's also for the institutions and so on, it's their first cycle, right? It's their first rodeo. And we have seen before that the drawdowns are still there. They're not as heavy anymore, but we still see, I mean, look at this drawdown, for example, right? We are in the middle of a bull market with those institutions, and we have a drawdown of 32% in a bull market, right? So he says the times of bear market drawdowns of 70-80% are long gone. Let me remind that we had a 77.5% drawdown just in the last bull market, and this is only 3 years ago. So long gone within a cycle is debatable, since we do not have any precedent that we cannot get another 77% drawdown. Okay, so the question here is how, and you remember also our discussion from what could happen in a next bear market, because we see strategy, for example, they leverage money now, they buy Bitcoin now. By the way, we're down to 116,900, so we are closing in on our CME gap here, 2,400 away to close the CME gap, but let's see. So given that, so these statements, right? Whereas going to, and it's not unreal, I mean, 200,000 per Bitcoin is not unrealistic. In fact, like falling short of, I'd see that as the upper potential, the moon boy side saying 200,000, that's possible, right? But expecting that we are coming up in a rocket move like this and then not having a massive drawdown is, in my opinion, ridiculous, right? Because you cannot say we are following global M2 companies are getting exposure and then not say, okay, but these same companies, they cannot sell. Of course they can sell. Everyone can sell. And if it's ETF shares, they can also sell. And especially taking into account what NFT Hero said here in the chat before, by the way, welcome Niklas to the fam here, to subscribers. Taking into account what NFT Hero said, that this is all OTC deals, what do you think happens if these asset managers sell, but there's no one OTC that wants to buy it at those prices? Then they will throw it into the open market, right? And then it goes to spot, and then it will lower the Bitcoin price. Then the price is negotiated to the downside. So I think that, and this goes along with retail FOMO, and then we have these 21 and MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet and GameStop, yada yada. What if they, in a raging bear market, have to sell because whatever, financial crisis or so, and Bitcoin is, let's say, already back down to 98K, and they are forced to sell because their position is over leveraged or whatever, right? We don't know. But I hard disagree on this statement, right? I'd say yes, Bitcoin could hit 200K or so, but not having 70% drawdowns, let's see. I want to, prove me wrong. because I don't know. Yeah, we'll come back to that. I mean, there will be. I hope there must be a time at some point where we have to go back in these live streams, like a time machine, and see what was the assumption before to be able to learn from stuff like that, right? But this is interesting. And then some people say, hey, look at these bands, like upper band, touch, cut, whatever. I mean, this drawing is like this wild pencil drawing thingies, right? But okay, let's go with it. And then you have like bear and bull market swings in this. Bitcoin is ready for a huge bull run. I would say Bitcoin is already in a huge bull run. I mean, what the heck are people talking about? What the heck are people talking about? I mean, it doesn't feel that much like a bull run because we do not have this exuberant euphoria yet, but I think it can still come. But going to our bear market bottom here at 15,500 and then going up to our all-time high, we are up 700%. This is a massive fat bull market already, right? So these comments are very dangerous in my opinion. It's like Bitcoin is ready for a huge bull run. I mean, what the heck? But to be honest, like we do have our indicators like TSI and RSI and so on, like conservative, always work indicators. But we also have to see that stuff like MVRVZ score is nowhere near the highs of a previous bull market, right? So MVRVZ score, where I would say, okay, at least this level of 6 should be reached, right, before we go into bear market. And that would support the thesis of many other people that where you would say, okay, you are sitting at 2.76 and your top indicator is what, like beyond 6, more like 7. This red zone starts at 7 where we should go. Wow, that that would really mean maybe we did not enter this bull run, right? So trying to bring here together all these perspectives, and then also we really need this raging last phase of the bull market to have our pi cycle indicator and by the way, this Bitcoin Magazine Pros also, right, you can still access this. You will not get the super latest live data, but you will still be able to use this so for free, right? And I'm not affiliated or anything. It's like bitcoinmagazinepro.com that I'm having open here, and there are like many segments on chain, blah, and so on. You can just click through the indicator and see for yourself where we are in the cycle. But if we were to look at, for example, look at the pi cycle indicator, right? Now here we have, this is before the pump, last update July 14th. Actually, it's after the pump already, July 14th, that's yesterday. So it's not exactly live, but it's good enough for the pi cycle. And we don't have the two lines yet converged, the MAs, where you see that every time this indicator predicted the tops correctly. So here it predicted 2 tops correctly, where there were two bear markets and 2 bull markets in one cycle. And then here it predicted the top correctly by the crossing of these 2 MAs, the 350 DMA and 111 DMA. And then here we also have the correct prediction on our first top, where I would still say that is the correct top. And then we do not have another cross since then. And now we are still not at 120,000. We're still not close to converge because this indicator basically reacts to a fast or quick last acceleration in the bull run where the price goes steep, like here, and draws this 111 DMA, which is a shorter time frame, up in a massive or in a quicker manner, right? So pi cycle top indicator doesn't show the top, MVRVZ score doesn't show the top, and our other models also don't show the top. The power of law model shows us as at mid regression band here. Let's check this out. Yeah, here, right? power of law says, okay, we are now at resistance. It makes sense to get rejected here as well, as we do. 1 second, I can. Yeah, as we do, we are exactly at it, right? Here we go. But yeah, let's just refresh this so that we get the normal chart again. So over the long haul, but power of law basically says we are right on top in the middle. And if you want to like estimate your Bitcoin stack over longer periods of time, taking this linear regression fit. So for example, if you let AI calculate your finances or something like that, you can have the linear regression fit as your baseline in every part of the cycle, and you see that the price just swings around it. And if you want to see your perfect bear market bottom, you see we hit every time we hit close to or hit the lower band. So you could also say, okay, I want to buy in end of 2026, where the bear market bottom then would be somewhere around 70,000, right? So these models help by giving you a little bit of perspective. And this is probably where people say, okay, we might be hitting 500K in the end of the year, because that is the top line of the power of law model, right? So it's the absolute maximum extension, as if we were mimicking this cycle where the top band was 20,000 and we did wick to it, right? So we did hit it in 2 cycles ago. But here also, this is why people probably estimated 100K guarantee, because they never saw a bull run not hitting this top line. So the question is, will our bull run be off here as well or not, right? And then if we go somewhere beyond this, it's going to go crazy, right? 113,000 incoming. I do see 114,500, which would close the CME gap. But 113,000 is absolutely in the realm of possibilities without destroying anything here on the market. So I totally see that, right? And we will probably see altcoins getting a little dump, right? Actually, no, because altcoins are holding at the moment a little bit better. Here we see Bitcoin dominance falling, which is, sorry, there we go. It's a little bit tricky to maneuver these windows, but we see Bitcoin dominance lost this, which is okay. Right now, Bitcoin is retracing. Altcoins didn't retrace so much, so Bitcoin dominance continues to fall here. Let's see how this develops, because we didn't yet really see a back test or anything. Are we just going to fall here? I'm fairly cautious on Bitcoin dominance still, because of what we experienced here. If this is another fake out or so, it's a good question. By the way, we do have 50 people here, so make sure to smash up the like button. Once more, I would really appreciate that if you enjoy this type of live stream, if you enjoy the insights here on the more macro, on the news, what's coming next for Bitcoin. We got you covered. Now, one of my favorite analysis of all time is this one here, and look at how, so Bitcoin in blue, Ethereum in orange, and NFTs in yellow. We do see that Bitcoin is now hitting 35 on this, let's say on the Google search trends, which is the highest value in a long time. Last time we did hit this value was in March. So us hitting all-time high gets retail into the mix. People are also looking more already for Ethereum, and Ethereum here stands proxy for, or stands as an example for altcoins, as is the most searched altcoin. You could put Solana or whatever, it doesn't matter. Sui, or it doesn't really matter. You get good statistics on Ethereum because Ethereum was around and leading in the last cycle, so you kind of want to have Ethereum here on the Google search trends, and then you want to have NFT because people are not looking for one NFT but rather for NFTs. We did hit a 5 here during NFT Pengu, like first signs of life for NFT, right? Now we're flatlining at 1 again. No one cares about NFT as Bitcoin is rallying. It's going to be very interesting, but I think we are going to repeat more or less the picture that we had here. So where Bitcoin at some point goes beyond 75, which we didn't have even in November, where altcoins were really crazy. We hit an Ethereum 8 and Bitcoin 64. But I think right now we are going to pump like hell during the next 3 months. So we are probably going to hit high numbers in search volume here. And that is where people, once Bitcoin is at an exaggerated number of 150 and beyond thousand, people will look for, okay, I can't really make money anymore and it's risky in Bitcoin, so let's take the next best thing, which is Ethereum. As people, you will find videos on Twitter where people say Ethereum is the next Bitcoin. Ethereum goes to 7,000 or 10,000, so people will look for that, research it, buy it, and then make money with it, tell everyone, and so on. So the cycle continues like last time. And I have so many thoughts, man, but how this is spinning. And then we did yesterday in the stream look at this extremely exaggerated list of ETFs for whatever type of altcoins: Sui, Solana, more Ethereum ETFs, XRP ETFs, Dogecoin ETF, Bonk ETF, and so on. They are all waiting for approval. And then there's the market structure bill coming. So there's a lot of bullish things coming for altcoins. Also for large cap ETFs, mix ETFs, where altcoins basically get a mixed allocation if they are in the top 10, top 5, top 10, top 20, top 50, whatever. So this is going to happen, and we are going to be here with that, right? But just to keep you updated, we will look at these charts more frequently here also in the Google search trends, how this is developing. Very interesting. As I said before, a couple of days of dip are expected, and then we go. Total 2, and I don't know why I'm always on these hourly charts here, but total 2 is, let me get this straight for you. Total 2 is very much on track here. 2. And this is different, right? So in the last cycle, we did have a double bottom for total 2. With the slightly, right, you see this here. But this time, it seems that we were closing in on a cup and handle. We still did not manage to go through this resistance line here, really, on a monthly basis. You could argue that we did if we go on a lower time frame, that we have broken it, closed above it, and retesting it now. That looks really good for the entire altcoin market, right? And that is important. I think where Bitcoin continues to rally, we are going to continue the rally here to the upside, going to an altcoin market cap of 1.6 trillion, closing our cup and handle somewhere. And this, if the cup and handle closes like it's drawn in here, we would be at 25th of August only, right? It can take a little bit longer. It doesn't have to. It maybe doesn't play out because this is a potential cup and handle, but it's only a cup and handle once it closes here and then breaks out, retests, and then flies, right? And that is what we are waiting for. But we see clearly that this, I mean, we do have 2 points nailed, absolutely nailed here for this pattern. So we are expecting something like this to unfold, where the breakout would be in the end of August, the retest would be somewhere towards end of September, beginning of October, and then we would fly into the end of the year. Does that make sense to everyone? I don't know, but it makes sense to me for sure, right? So if it makes sense to you, then smash up the like button here. Subscribe to the channel to never miss out. Bell ticked for reasonable analysis. And also consider supporting this channel on a monthly basis in a rare hodler tier, very important. another note, the dip is also projected in the DXY, and you will see why for sure here, right? Because we do have 1 month of pump in the DXY, and since the DXY is leading actually price action, this might reflect into our current Bitcoin how to say, 1 second, we do have Bitcoin here as an overlay. So we see here actually it's not that clean, but we sometimes see the DXY rallying, and then afterwards Bitcoin dumps, and then the DXY dumps and Bitcoin starts rallying again. So maybe these little blips have this have the same effect, right? So it's expected to have a week or so of dipping. We are more or less, and this is so we are more towards where we should look at quickly at the altcoins. We do see already, and this is what I meant, like Bitcoin dominance is still down because altcoins are holding up fairly good, right? They are only down 3 to 5%, and not like in the other months before 20% on a dip or so, right? We do have some greens like Bonk and Pump and Saros and Mantle. What is that? Yeah, Mantle. We are down overall 3% on alts across all assets or all across all brackets. So everything's all right in that sense, right? So we are looking at a week that is still massively in the green. We cannot forget that. Like the altcoin week is insanely green. We do have 50%ers and 30% pumps out of many things. In the beginning of the stream, someone says, why is VeChain underperforming? VeChain is up 17.6% on this week and has done better than many coins, but not as good as a lot of coins. For example, Mantle, Tau, Say, Pengu, Memecore, and so on, they did better than VeChain, as well as Jasmy, XLM, HBAR, and so on. On the other hand, VeChain did better than Filecoin, Aptos, Ton, Jupiter, whatever, right? So you find a lot of coins here. Dogecoin, also Dogecoin did 14%, for example. So it's just there in the middle, right? Let's see. Not all coins do the big jump at the same time. So there will be times where suddenly ADA will do a massive run when other coins are just 5%, and then everyone is like, oh man, I should have bought more ADA, right? And then 2 weeks after, Tau goes on a massive rally, and Injective and whatever, right? So probably layer ones at the same time, and then gaming projects at the same time, whatever narrative gets pushed through Twitter, right? So yeah, for today, we will leave it with a macro view, as I will have to jump. So I thank everyone for being here. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, notifications on, very important. And guys, wherever you are on the world, have yourselves a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. Enjoy your coffees, and I see you in the next live stream. Good morning to you, and bye.